Yes, all right. Welcome back to Kosi's Arsenal podcast. My name is Kosi. How are you guys doing? And in this video, we are going to be looking at the match predicted lineups. Arsenal up against Spurs, the biggest rivalry in the whole world, apart from El Clasico, I think, where you have 10, is it 1 million or 10 million cameras on the El Clasico? I was really surprised. You have 1 million cameras on the El Clasico per game, per El Clasico game. That I think that is the biggest rivalry. There is also one in Argentina. I think Boca Juniors and River Plate. That is another fierce one. But in the UK, this is the biggest one. Arsenal up against Tottenham Hotspur, the North London derby, the ultimate North London derby. One I think that is going to be interesting at this stage because Spurs are back, and I think they're flying, they're on fire. They've been getting a couple of good results in the past games, but I think Arsenal is also not in a very poor situation. We are not flying, we are not dreaming because as you know our situation is not that good, but I think we are in a situation where we can play Spurs. That's what I think. What do you think? Smash the like button, people, if you like the content. And of course, if you do not want to miss any Arsenal update, consider subscribing to the channel and smashing the notification bell. So we are going to be looking at the predicted lineup. And in this one, I think my only problem is it's going to be about the defense because Harry Kane, Gareth Bale, and Heung-min Son are flying. They're on fire. They're just, producing magic day in, day out. And how are we going to contain them? I think the midfield, the midfield for Spurs is a little bit containable with Granit Xhaka and Thomas Partey. I think the quality matches in those areas. My only problem, like I said, is how do you stop Son, Bell, and Harry Kane? Because they are absolutely out of this world, especially in the recent games. So do not blame me when I say, probably we should see players like Cedric. We should see players like, I think the centre back partnership that played against Olympiacos should come back. We're going to be discussing that and more. So what do you think should be the starting lineup, by the way? Because I would want to take your thoughts on this. On these lineups, what should be our starting lineup? It's going to be very key on the result we get. So here we go, and of course I'm going to go with Leno. I think he never had a great game. The last two games, I think you would consider him one of the reasons as why we've been actually conceding, but I don't want to blame so much on the Olympiacos, on the Olympiacos goal. I feel like Danny Ceballos should have done better. I mean, his awareness around, of the people around him, of the opponents around him, was very low. And there is no reason as to why I should blame Leno because Ceballos has a lot, lots and chance of space to pass that ball. He could have, gone back to Leno, but he's not aware of the opponents around him, and that's a weakness in football. If you're not aware of the players around you, of the opponents around you, and you're playing in the midfield, then there's a big question mark there. But I think I wouldn't blame Leno. Look, I wouldn't blame him. Against Burnley over the last weekend, probably that you would blame him a little because he passes that ball to Granit Xhaka. Xhaka was in a difficult situation and he was heading towards his own goal, but still I would go with Leno. I mean, I like him, and I'm a Leno man, and I think he's the best goalkeeper at Arsenal. He's one of the best five, the best goalkeepers in the Premier League. There is no problem with having Leno. Now, the centre back playership is gonna be tricky because one, we have not seen a consistent partnership from Mikel Arteta for the last 10 games probably. He uses a different partnership every day, of course he's going to say that is a tactical decision. He does that because maybe he wants to rotate and so on. But in this one, I think we have three players to hold, and letting any one of them go is a big mistake. You remember the game we lost against Spurs, two mistakes from Hector Bellerin and Rob Holding, and the two goals from Spurs, and Jose Mourinho defends it well in the second half because I think we were dominant in the second half, but because we made two mistakes, and we have already and actually I think the first leg of the Spurs game against Arsenal sums up everything about Arsenal's season. It's been mistakes, a mistake. So in this one, I'll go with Gabriel Magalhaes because he played well against Olympiacos, and actually, I think for me he's one of those players that actually really played well and put in a very decent performance. So I'll go with Gabriel Magalhaes, just trying to look for his picture here and see whether I can get him. Gabriel M. Yeah, here we go. Gabriel Magalhaes. Where are you? Where can I find him? Okay. This is impossible. Gabriel. There we go. So we'll go with Gabriel Magalhaes and David Louis, I think, because um, my thoughts on that is going David Louis is a little bit, going to provide us with some experience, of course, and everybody knows that. I think what he provides, to us, in defense is the ability for us to defend the ball very well, and I think everybody is going to believe that. Everybody is going to be, with me on that occasion. One, he has the experience. He's dealt with, you know, a couple of attacking partnerships and a couple attacking trios. But I think one, the leadership, the leadership skills he offers to Arsenal are also very vital and key. Especially in such a game, because Jose Mourinho is going to be using a lot of mind games. He's going to be using, a lot of, tactics and psychology. But you also know that Son, Ken, and Bell are very good as a trio, but they're also good individually, and that's why that means you either have to track them as a whole or track one by one. And I think David Louis' leadership will be much needed in such a scenario. Now, I'm going to go with Cedric in the right back. I won't go with Hector Bellerin. I think the pace of Heung-min Son, the pace of Hurricane, and the pace of Gareth Bale only communicates that you need a player who is a little bit aware, more aware defensive wise than going forward. And I think Cedric is good at that. He's better than Hector Bellerin defensive wise, and his pace is a little bit good. So you could you could rely on him going forward with his pace, and you could also rely on him coming back with his pace. That's why I drop Hector Bellerin. But otherwise, I would have used Hector, but I'm dropping him for Cedric. And then Kian Tierney is another one that should be playing in this one. There are no questions about that. And I think he's going to have a very rough evening on Sunday. And the reason is, it's either going to be Son or Bell going through his wing. And we know Bell is not only a runner, but he is also a very technically gifted player. And I think Hector, Kian Tierney, should be aware of that. Bell is one, is very good on one-on-ones. Bell is very good at taking you off. Bell is very good at running, and Bell is very good at finishing. So it's going to be a rough evening. So Kian Tierney and Gabriel should be handling Bell, and then Cedric and Luis should be handling Heung-min Son, and then Gabriel, Luis, and Granit Xhaka and Thomas Partey will be handling Hurricane. It's going to be a very hard one. In the midfield, I think I don't think Spurs have a lot of life in the midfield. Of course, they do have Ndombele, who has had a very very good season, and Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, who has had a very good season as well. But for me, literally, Mourinho teams can play without a midfield. They can get that ball and pump it forward, as long as it reaches the foot or the boot of Son, Kane, and Bell, then they can create all the havoc they want. So I think in this one, Granit Xhaka is going to be a very important figure. Leave alone the criticism and so on. I think it's going to be a very important one. And I don't want Thomas Partey to play as the CDM. I would want Granit Xhaka to play as the CDM, just so to make sure that we almost have 5 defenders. Because for me, I think Tierney and Xhaka will be partnering very, very well. When Tierney goes forward, Granit Xhaka will be coming back. So I'll give him that CDM role just to help out Kian Tierney. Then to help him out is going to be, of course, Thomas Partey. There is no question about that. It's going to be Thomas Partey in that midfield. Look, they make a very, very good midfield duo. And I love their duo, trust me. I do love their duo. But this time, I want it to rotate. Partey not coming in as the CDM. Xhaka coming in as the CDM. And then Emile Smith-Rowe, actually, not Martin Odegaard. I'm going to give my reasons as to why I go with Emile Smith-Rowe, not Martin Odegaard. Now, look, Partey, Xhaka, and Smith-Rowe. The reason as to why I go with Smith-Rowe is Smith-Rowe has the ability to run with this ball from the midfield to the wider areas. Of course, that means he will be taking it to players like Odegaard, players like Aubameyang, and players like Pepe or Willian, depending on who Mikel Arteta will choose. And then that means Partey and Granit Xhaka will have a lot of space, to operate in the midfield. Of course, we know Emile Smith-Rowe is one player that really operates on the wings of the pitch. He doesn't really want to work in the midfield. So I would want Thomas Partey to be my midfield controller, and that's why I'm not making him as a CDM, and that's why I'm not putting Martin Odegaard as part of my midfield. I would put him as part of my front three. The reason is I want Partey to control this game. I don't want Odegaard to control this game. That's the basic reason. And Smith-Rowe cannot control the game when Partey is in. Xhaka cannot control the game when Partey is in. So I want Partey to control the game for me. So on the left wing, I'll go with Martin Odegaard now. I'll go with Martin Odegaard. Where did I write wrong? Okay, here we go. The reason that's why I want to go with Martin Odegaard, because Spurs are capable of playing a low block, and the same importance, the same role he played against Olympiacos on Thursday is the same role I want him to play against Tottenham Hotspur. When things go wrong, when things go tough, and Spurs feel like they're up by a goal to nil, and they feel like they want to defend that, can we break them down? And I think Odegaard is the man for that. He can do that brilliantly well. He did it against Olympiacos, and I really loved his show. It was a pure masterclass. Bukayo Saka comes on the right wing. There are no questions about that, are there? So Saka, Odegaard, and Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. In this one now, Aubameyang for me, to be sure. Let me just contradict myself. Instead of Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, I'll play Alexander Lacazette. The photo might not show, but you could see. I would play Alexander Lacazette. Now the reason is, Aubameyang is not a box striker, which is good, but Alexander Lacazette could be a box striker. Actually, both of them are not so much of box strikers, but you need a player who's going to hold Spurs back. And for me, that is Alexander Lacazette. With his energy and with his, force, he would actually hold Jose Mourinho players back. And that's the reason as to why I would actually pick him over Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang in this one. So, Leno, Tierney, Gabriel, Luiz, Cedric, Smith-Rowe, Xhaka, Partey, Odegaard, Lacazette, and the man himself, Bukayo Saka, would be my starting 11. And of course, it's not a bad one. I've given my reasons why that is the starting 11. I would actually go for against Spurs. For Spurs, I think their starting 11 won't change because they're looking at a game where they think they need to get 3 points to keep their rhythm going, and I will talk about that in the match preview. What the game means for Arsenal, what the game means for Spurs, how tactical it would be. I think Mikel Arteta would want to dominate this one. In the end, I think Jose Mourinho won't want to dominate this one, especially by the fact that he is away from home, but he wants to get cheap 3 points. That means he wants to defend the game all day long and all night long. But for Spurs, I think they might go with Banden. They might go with Hugo in goal. Oriel. I think he might use Oriel in that case. Davis and I don't know. I don't know that I don't know of their preferred center preferred centre-back partnership, but probably we could see Davis and Toby in the defense. Then probably we could see Sergio Reguilon, one of the best actually left backs in the league. In the midfield, we could see Højbjerg and Ndombele partnering together. The question is, who's going to be ahead of them? Is it going to be Moussa, not Sissoko? But he might play Sissoko. I won't be surprised if he plays Ndombele, Højbjerg, and Sissoko, because he's defensive as a manager. But even if he doesn't use Sissoko and he uses Lo Celso, or he uses Moura, actually, that's the name I wanted to use. Lucas Moura. I think his ambitions will be accomplished by having Højbjerg and Ndombele. They played a whole lot better together this season. Then of course the attacking three, if nothing changes, is going to use Ken, Son, and either Bergwijn or Bell. But I think he's going to use Bell because the three have been in an electrified goal scoring form. So those are the predicted lineups, I think. What do you think about this game, and who should start for Spurs? As well, who should start for Arsenal? I'm still working on this. We are going to be going through Mikel Arteta's press conference, if he does any. We'll be looking at the match preview, how important is the game for both sides, and more and more and more and more. Smash a like on this video, and I'll speak to you in the next one.